nowhere to be seen. There is no public record, no footage, no statement, not even a passing mention of her presence during that final, intense search push. In most missing child cases, parents cling to the hope that someone, somewhere, will find their children. They join every search, they chase every lead. But in this case, Malehya's retreat was near absolute. It no longer looked like grief, it looked like avoidance. And then the shadow of Child Protective Services emerged. According to multiple sources, CPS had advised Malehya to leave the home she shared with Daniel, not just because of the emotional trauma, but because of something far more serious. Allegations surfaced about drug paraphernalia found both inside the home and in her vehicle. If true,
I would like to know where these allegations come from. And there are two things that are very common from people who know people who are now suddenly in the spotlight in an unexpected case, meaning they're not celebrities, they're all of a sudden, the everybody knows their names, household names, right? And the one reaction is complete silence, but another reaction is also fabrications. So people who didn't like them or what have you, they will come out and say things that may be true partially, but they get exaggerated. But maybe they are true. But it's really, really difficult to differentiate when you don't have any sources. So somebody said, yeah, one channel they claim that she lawyered up. Really? I mean, what is the source here? What is the source? Did she or didn't she? I have no idea.
this not only raised questions about the safety of the home where Lily and Jack lived, but also cast a chilling new light on what might have been going on behind closed doors before the children vanished. An unsafe environment.
I think everybody gets the impression that, you know, the kids were not taken care of. And I know they were not. And that's because of Malehya's statements, where she tries to paint a picture of her always being there. And also that Jack has the pull up on, still at age 4. Also, they were not catching up in school, both of them. What, are both of them suddenly autistic? No, because everything that we are told by the bus driver and others, she was very outgoing. Lily was a very outgoing little girl, and she was not showing any signs of autism. She simply didn't catch up with other kids, in my opinion, because of a home life that was not conducive to education in general. So we can't help getting a certain impression of the parents or of what we think the parental style may have been, but it is actually confirmed by the statements of the mother. It's indicated, strongly indicated, that she feels such a need to paint herself as a responsible parent, not just herself, but him as well.
A possible CPS intervention, a mother told to leave, and she did. Was this retreat part of a legal strategy? Was she a
And since Daniel said he is not allowed to see his daughter, this is highly possible. Highly possible. So we don't know exactly what was found, but yeah, there are some strong indications here, people. This is a lot more than just the rumor, this part. But again, I always like the sources. There was a drug party. Yeah, it's always anonymous, people, right? It's too bad it's anonymous. I would rather have somebody come out, of course, and say what they have to say, but the legalities may prevent them from doing that. But we need to know the dates. When did this so called drug party take place? When did you see all the cars? They say Wednesday or Thursday night. Okay, great. Well, why wasn't there, why couldn't that person be specific? That's what I'm wondering. Because when was a statement made? A few days after? And they don't remember if it was Wednesday or Thursday?
Avoiding questions or avoiding consequences. And as the story of Lily and Jack Sullivan continued to unfold through search maps,
And the only way we can control our language is when we don't speak. So that is what Malehya is doing right now. She knows her limits, and Daniel, I don't think he does.
interviews and grieving communities, one detail became harder and harder to ignore.
Yeah?
The mother stopped looking, and she never came back.
Only 1.2% of humanity is
Yes,
starseeds.
I am a starseed,
Are you one
dude.
of us?
I already know. I don't need your test.
What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us.
Let's see.
And they happened to just get out that sliding door, and we can't hear it when it opens.
Now I'm very curious.
And they were outside
Of course, what he's going to say, because I already analyzed this part, but let's see what he has to say.
playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time.
She didn't say, I woke up. She said, we. We woke up.
Yeah.
We noticed. We were just dozing off. In the earliest moments of the investigation, when every word matters,
And that, people, is a very important thing to add to the pattern we have already noticed. She likes to speak for we. We want to hear about you, because you are the one who left Daniel. Not we left. You are the one that we want to hear from. We want to hear from Daniel, committing to I did this, I did that. And we want to hear from you. What exactly did you do? Not what did we do. So there's a reason in court that's, we want to hear you committing to something. I think the children have been kidnapped. We want to hear that. Not, it's a possibility. There could have been an abduction. What do you think? She is avoiding any type of commitment. It's almost like throwing out all types of possibilities, all types of scenarios. Look here, look there, look there, look there. Or it's not this, then let's go back to this. Or it's not an abduction. Okay, let's look at them walking away. Or they couldn't have gone far. Maybe it was an abduction. You see, this is similar to what the Proudfoots have done in the very beginning already. Like, was there, all of these different scenarios being thrown out, and that's often done when somebody doesn't have a defense or a logical explanation. They throw out different possibilities, and they want to see what people are more likely to believe or talk about. And they kind of hope this case just goes away. And in the case of Sebastian Rogers, it seems to me that this is working. This has worked for Chris Proudfoot. It has worked because now the case has gone cold.
Malehya Brooks Murray didn't speak as a mother in shock or grief. She spoke in passive, collective terms. She blurred the lines between who saw what, who did what, and who should be held accountable. It wasn't, I noticed the kids were gone. It was we. This linguistic detachment is more than just semantics.
Mm-hmm.
It's a documented psychological pattern known as distancing language, often observed when someone subconsciously separates themselves from traumatic events or potential responsibility. And in missing child cases, that separation is loud because when a parent truly panics, the language is raw, immediate, personal. I can't find my baby. Not. We noticed they weren't there.
Right.
But this wasn't just about pronouns.
That's exactly it. She's avoiding any type of emotional commitment. I woke up. I didn't see my children. I ran into the yard. I didn't see my children. I ran towards the forest and looked around the forest. I didn't see my children. I didn't see my babies. I didn't see Lily. I didn't see Jack. She didn't mention their names. There's extreme distancing going on right here.
It was about the way she framed her children, their behavior, their vulnerability, their world.
And the next thing we knew, it was quiet, and we get up, and I tell him, my partner, Daniel, I tell him, "Do you hear the kids?" And he says,
My partner, Daniel, that's also distancing. She's distancing herself from the events leading up to this. And that is unexpected because the opposite is expected. That every single second of when you had last seen your child, or the moment that you realized your child was gone, this would have been so intense that she would have not been able to stop yapping about it. Excuse my language, but just going erratic and full. You would see it in her face, just the inability to let go and not thinking about how am I going to sound. Or we understand when the parent of a missing child is losing it right in front of her eyes, but she is the complete opposite. There is no I, there is nothing about how did you feel. Because especially to mothers, the emotional reaction would be so ingrained in her that she would be unable to focus properly and tell you exactly about these specific moments that would feel like minutes, 20-second intervals that would feel like 10 minutes. Because the shock to hit her, I cannot find my children. But she said, I instantly called 911 instinctively. Instinctively? Instinctively, I would expect you to run into the forest and scream their names. So while Daniel is talking about all the things that he has done, she doesn't indicate any of them. What did you do? How did you react? Where were you? When did you realize it?
Is no, and we get up instantly. We're looking outside, we're looking everywhere, yelling for them, and I instantly just call 911. I just had the instinct I needed to call. They're both really good.
You don't feel the need to explain it, why you would call 911. Of course, a maternal instinct, yeah. But you would be expected to go here, maybe look there, right? Scream their names. Walk out, look around here. There's a forest. Run out there a little bit. Then maybe run back, call 911, and run back out there to see if you saw them, if you see them, if you hear them. Your voice would be a powerful tool to bring them back. If they hear their mother, even if they gotten lost, but they couldn't have gone that far, not a 4-year-old. Walking away, he would have been the weakest link. They would have walked as fast as a 4-year-old could have walked.
Lucky children, they're so sweet. They talk to anyone. They'll talk your ear off. They will speak to anyone in a store. Everyone.
When asked
Anyone
about
and
Lily
everyone.
and Jack's potential whereabouts, Malehya didn't describe them as children who would hide in fear or cling to each other in the woods. She described them as the kind of kids who would go with anyone.
Yeah.
This AI turns your ideas into complete, ready-to-sell digital products in bulk and in...
They don't know about stranger danger, she said. They would have just gone. On the surface, that might sound like a mother being honest about her kid's innocence. But to forensic psychologists, it raised eyebrows. Because in cases of abduction, or presumed abduction, this kind of language preemptively supports the idea that the children must have been taken.
Yeah.
It prepares the listener to believe in a specific scenario, and it subtly redirects suspicion away from the home and toward a faceless, nameless threat. Why emphasize how
Look at anyone and everyone. Who is a suspect? Who is a person of interest? Anyone and everyone. Me and my partner Daniel are just two people. Anyone could have taken these kids. So keep looking, people.
easily lured the children were? Why plant that image? Unless you want people to stop looking closer to home. Then there's what wasn't said.
We were searching. We covered everywhere possible. Even in the first day, we did. Even with me running through the woods, I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones and stuff like that, screaming as loud as I can.
Why wouldn't you be ahead of them? You were already there. And it took them time to get the helicopters and everything. Why is there a need to say this? Unless you now want to look like not necessarily a hero, but somebody who cares more than anybody else.
Until my throat hurt, running through water that was up to my waist. And as soon as I got back, I wasn't allowed back in the woods until a man dressed in a military outfit said I could go back into the woods.
Explaining a short period of time, feeling the need to explain a short period of time where he didn't do it. He feels that the more he does, the more it will keep people from looking at him. He's running from himself. He's running from the public. That's why he's running through the forest. He's telling you how much he has done. And after that, he says, that's all I can do. Because he doesn't expect any result, any success. It's only about the action in itself. The action is not a tool to find the children for him. The action in itself is his goal. To be seen as somebody who acts, even if for a few minutes he is not able. And who knew? Who would have known that for a few minutes maybe, or for a couple hours, he wasn't allowed to go back in the woods? And of course, why wasn't he allowed to go back in the woods? Well, they may have suspected that he had something to do with it and said, don't interfere here. Let's talk to you about a couple other things. And they had the 4-hour interrogation. With 4 hours is a long damn time. I guess him and Malehya got their story straight. They were able to come up with the script that is, I guess, good enough.
Woods. I hate being wet and cold, so they immediately would have came right back into the house.
Yep, he's telling us they didn't go into the woods. He's already telling us.
2 prints are right beside the house facing the road, and then that's it.
Not once did Malehya publicly express concern about the most primal fears any parent would have. No mention of hunger, no fear of the cold, no wondering whether Lily had her asthma puffer or if Jack had a blanket. No tears about their fear, no anguish about their pain. It was
and that indicates either her knowing, somebody knowing the kids are somewhere else and they're safe, or the kids have passed away. Then the maternal instinct is turned off, and grief, sorrow, pain comes in. Because once it's been processed, it means the kids are beyond help. It means you cannot there's nothing I can do. And that process can come very, very quickly in a situation where you have to perform. And the Madeleine McCann case is a prime example for that, because she got it together real quickly. And I believe it was an accident with Madeleine McCann that she died in the apartment. And that's what Peter Hyatt concluded as well. And you can watch that in his interview with Richard D. Hall. So there is a reason a mother is composed as she is. The maternal instinct has been turned off. And that can mean only that the kids are somewhere where she knows and they're being taken care of and safe, or that they are no longer with us. Otherwise, there would be emotion, there would be I. Daniel, look, that's the same thing when Katie Proudfoot talked about Sebastian, we love you. She had to include Chris Proudfoot in her telling Sebastian, trying to tell him for the camera that she loved him, but she wasn't able to do that. She could only say we. So all of the things that a mother otherwise would not be able not to talk about, she was unable to talk about.
Never, are they safe? It was, they're
gone.
gone.
Exactly.
That absence of basic empathy, of instinctual parental panic, tells its own story. Because
it's worried about how we view her as a mother. And that is not expected, people. So let's see a little bit more and learn a little bit more, and I hope we can understand
in nearly every legitimate case of missing children, the first things parents scream are about needs. They're hungry. They're scared.
Please hurry up and get to them fast. She said, I appreciate the huge surf effort, but I want an Amber Alert, okay? Not saying they could have been abducted, but it's a possibility. What did she say exactly? I think my children have been abducted would have made sense to me. That would have been a commitment, not it's a possibility. Not even I think it is possible. I think it's likely. I think if you don't think your children could have walked that far and they would have come back, as Daniel said, they would have been cold and wet, then what is logical? If you had not a thing to do with their disappearance, if you had no clue and your story was true, that you woke up and they were not there, they couldn't have gone far. You would have been able to find them on foot. Believe me, a 4-year-old. So the only option would have been they have been abducted. They must have been abducted. It doesn't matter if police say no. You would say to the camera, they were abducted. There is no other possibility. Because you would have already run into the woods. You would have led the police. When a search team came and with the helicopters, you would have grabbed a bunch of guys and said, my son is 4. He's not 5 kilometers, 3 miles away. He's right here somewhere. He must be here somewhere. And then you would have screamed abduction, but with commitment and with confidence and with certainty. Because, well, unless you actually have something else in the back of your mind that you either think of or you know could have happened or that you know did happen.
Please find them before nightfall.
Yes.
But Malehya's statements lacked...
And I don't care how much you hate your partner, which you didn't until this particular moment, right? I don't care if your life was together and ever since you met him, both of your lives have gone downhill and you blame that relationship. You would stick around. You would maybe scream and yell at him, but you wouldn't leave. And if he says, get off the property, no, please, please, I need to find my children. Even says Rogers when he's getting attacked. And you would not care. That would not be a matter of a moment of pride. You would say to your own mother, please, mom, shut up. Don't accuse nobody. We only want to know. I need to be here. We need to be here right now. Later on, we can fight. Later on, we can do. But remember with Scott Peterson, that family of Lacey, it took a while until they finally said, yep, he has something to do with it. There is no more doubt. Now they didn't want to believe it. And they wanted to unite efforts. Because the only thing on their minds, not knowing what happened to Lacey, was let's find her. Let's find her wherever she may be. We need to find her. We need to use this particular momentum that we have right now with all of the cameras being present in the last place she was known to be, supposedly, if you believe Scott. We're not leaving. We're going to be right. We are going to search. No matter what. It wouldn't matter how you feel about Daniel. Not at that moment. Once the kids are found, or once the solution, or once the final results come, and then you can say, you bastard, you made my life. Whatever the hell she may think or feel, then the other feelings come up. But until then, the only feelings you're supposed to have are for your children. Yes, for your daughter Meadow, of course, as well. But mom could take her. Because you would instinctively, let's use instinctively accurately, instinctively only focus on the ones that are in need right now, unless they are not in need. Either because you know they're safe somewhere, or because you know they have passed on and there's nothing you can do anymore.
That urgency, that emotional realism, that raw humanity. Instead, what the public heard was a calm, flat explanation of behavior, a focus on what the kids were like, not on what they might be feeling. And as the weeks stretched into months, one truth...
And that is the thing. They talk your ear off. Right now, your kids would be possibly many different things: cold, hungry, scared, frightened, in the hands of strangers who may abuse them. And that would run through your mind, not in the mind of a mother. And she didn't say, in my mind, I'm always thinking about the worst thing. She said, in the mind of a mother. So she cannot commit at all to her own thoughts and her own feelings. She needs to say we, and include Daniel, or a mother. And she says everybody loves them. She cannot say, I love you, I love them. Not at this moment, because something keeps her from being able to do that, from visiting this emotional connection, this undeniable, this strong bond. But she cannot say that. She can only say that everybody loves them.
Became undeniable. The silence wasn't just around the children, it was embedded in the very way their story was told.
We are looking for girls who haven't exercised in years and want to start a challenge before June with our calisthenics workout
Take
program.
Your challenge.
She left her community behind, completely. Far from her McMark roots, Malehya Brooks Murray chose to live in an isolated trailer deep in the rural backwoods of Nova Scotia, a place where cell signals dropped, roads turned to gravel, and no one came by unless they had a reason. In fact, she was the only indigenous resident in the area. That choice raises questions, not just about lifestyle, but about intent. Why live in such seclusion? Why raise children in an environment so disconnected from support systems, schools, and social safety nets?
Yeah, I mean, I never understand why people want to live completely off grid and kind of leave society behind. Yeah, in a way, I mean, I like nature. I like to be not in the center of too many people. I like to be close to nature, which I am right now. But, well, people, this is the perfect spot. And I mean, some of you have told me this is an area where drugs just run rampant. And yeah, this would be a safer place to do it, right? And in the inner city where you have undercover cops and all of this stuff, right? So, but I would have the desire to have more of a connection with other people, you know? So I think that's a valid point. But then again, there are people who don't do drugs, who live just regular lives and they enjoy being a little more isolated. So I cannot agree with this. I cannot agree wholeheartedly with this, but it can be an indicator for a certain type of lifestyle that people just don't want to be seen. In the center of in the middle, surrounded by forest and on their own property, but a little bit off the main road, not so easily visible. Because of things like the neighbors said, you know what I mean? Neighbors being able to, oh, there's a bunch of cars there, man. Must be a drug party. Well, let's see.
Investigators would later call the setting a perfect storm for invisibility.
Yeah.
Because in that kind of isolation,
A perfect storm for invisibility? Let me think about this for a second.
becomes dangerously easy for days to pass unnoticed, for questions to go unasked, and for a disappearance to remain hidden. That's exactly what seems to have happened. According to
the question is, how much time have they had and how much time had passed? And when was the alleged drug party? We still don't know. Wednesday or Thursday? Would be useful if somebody was able to pinpoint it only a few days after.
The school records, the children hadn't been seen since April 29th. Several days before the official 911 call on May 2nd, and yet no alarms were raised. No teacher made a call. No neighbor knocked on the door because there were no neighbors close enough to notice. The area's lack of surveillance only deepened the mystery. No ring cameras, no passing cars, no store footage showing the kids in public. Just a window of time, 3 whole days, where the trail goes cold. A gap like that isn't just suspicious. It's pivotal, because in child disappearance cases, the first 48 hours are everything. And here, those hours weren't just lost. They were silent. Was this a tragic coincidence or a window of preparation? Time used not in panic, but in planning? When children vanish in remote locations, geography can become the perfect accomplice. It limits witnesses, slows response, and delays discovery. And in this case, it all began in a place no one was watching.
The fastest growing scam of 2025 is spreading like wildfire and wiping out bank accounts.
All right, let's do it. So what does this all mean?
She never begged for them back. She never...
And that's the thing, man. I mean, I think I summarized it even before
this. Stayed to keep searching. She never even made a public plea. That in itself isn't a crime. But when placed beside a mountain of inconsistencies, statements that don't align, a timeline that doesn't hold, and behavior that retreats rather than confronts, the silence becomes deafening. No single red flag proves guilt. But taken together, they begin to shape.
That's absolutely true. There are red flags, here and there, which can be explained. And the patterns are what's worth examining or getting to, establishing a pattern. And here we have so many red flags. And how to tell that somebody's speaking from a script? Well, she's referring to the past in the present tense. That's one. I don't know her regular speech pattern. I would love to hear a recording of her. Anything. If there was ever a video that she made. Hi, look, we're here at the at mountain such and such, and we're going skiing or what. No, they didn't go skiing. I doubt it. But any little thing. Look, we got a new ATV trailer. Hey, everybody. I want to hear how she speaks normally. And I can guarantee, I bet you that she speaks a little bit faster than normally. And that's also a tendency people have, especially Katie Proudfoot, when they are scripted, so well scripted that they just want to get through it. They don't have to pause and think. You're expected to pause and think. Your mind is supposed to be racing right now, thinking about all the possibilities, what could have happened to your child. Not be so vague and so definite, and either too definite or too indefinite. No curiosity expressed. What do you think? I mean, where can they be? You would be on edge. This is like a press conference. This is something a spokesperson would do. That's how she sounds, like a spokesperson, interpreting what somebody, when a celebrity messes up and a spokesperson speaks on their behalf and just keeps it dry and short, and that's it. And makes a plea, not an emotional, direct, committed plea to a potential kidnapper, but in general, the police, yeah, we would like an Amber Alert. No, now the cameras are on you. Scream their names. Scream their names. Talk to an abductor and tell him, the abductor, that you will do anything to get your children back. Please. Not, it's a possibility. It would be a certainty if you had nothing to do with it and the kids wouldn't have been able to go off on their own. Not necessarily an abductor. You could consider, look what Seth Rogers said, even though he may consider it an abduction, which I don't think he really does, but he said if anybody has him, non-accusatory, he wouldn't want to insult the abductor. So you could say, if you have picked up my children, if you have given them a ride, if you have seen them at the side of the road and taken them somewhere to have some food, and maybe you took them to the home and they weren't able to tell you where they live, and of course it would be a strange scenario, because you would, if you wanted to help, if you saw two children and they were not able to communicate properly where they should be taken, you would call 911 immediately. Yeah, you would maybe take him somewhere, maybe to your home, and give him some milk or whatever, and have them warm up. But you would call 911. But still, that possibility that maybe there's somewhere somebody's taking care of them, they would have to be with an adult. So why don't you reach out to that person or these people?
Shape a chilling narrative, one of emotional detachment, physical absence, conflicting testimonies.
And yes, RCMP detachments. It's called detachments. So that was one of these things where I learned something, because I picked up on the term detachment from Daniel. And that is why it's always important to have other people fill in your blanks, correct you, and let you know when you are not on, when you consider different possibilities, this is not the path, and it shifts you back into the middle, into the center of the narrow path that we need to travel.
And a near total disappearance from the search for her own children. Daniel, the stepfather, remains visible. He handed over devices, took a polygraph, showed up to every press conference. Meanwhile, Malehya left the scene entirely. No social media posts, no news appearances, no trace of urgency. So we're left to ask, was this a mother broken by grief? Or someone who knew from the very beginning what the outcome would be? Because if Lily and Jack never made it past April 29th, then the truth has been locked inside that trailer for far longer than anyone wants to admit. And if someone in that house does know what happened, the clock on justice started ticking weeks ago. What do you think these red flags point to? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're listening.
Thank you for watching True Crimes.
Yeah, feel free to do that. And of course, this is the latest of this channel. Winnie the Pooh voice, so narrator voice. And yeah, a couple of things, of course. I mean, Malehya made a post about the. Yeah, she made a couple of posts. And Henry Brooks is her father, apparently. And he talked about the first day. Baby, I'm a tracker. And she hasn't told him the specific time. Let's see exactly what he said. That's going to be the last thing, people. I actually have it right here. Facebook, Malehya, Brooks Murray. Oh, Nikki Jason? I don't know. Baby girl, why didn't you tell me when that first happened? What is he referring to? When that first happened? When was that drug party? When did he exactly find out? Why didn't you tell me when that first happened? Well, she would have called 911 first, right? And didn't he find out pretty much immediately afterwards? Was he supposed to call her before? How long before? And what happened? Does he know something the general public doesn't know? Please never hold nothing back from me ever again. I love you, baby. Next time something like that happens, I mean, something like that happens the next time, I find this pretty strange, because why would you, man, focus on the kids right now? That also sounds a little bit final, right? You tell me right away, baby, I'm a tracker. How about right now? He may not want to say too much. It's possible that family filled him in with something. You know, maybe her mother and him had some communication, and maybe she filled her mother in on a couple of things. So we don't know. But what struck me was this: when that first happened, which exact time is he referring to? When was the drug party? Was there even a drug party? I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.